So we have a recording for today.
Yes. So my name is Paige and this is Minji, and we want to welcome you to our live event. So in this,
Hello, everybody.
In this,
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll put my camera on. Can you see?
Okay.
Oh, I'll put my light on.
Okay.
Hi. I see Yen, I see Dan.
Yeah.
Great. And that's Amy. Haven't met Amy before, but I want to say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So I've put it in the Facebook group, so we should be streaming there live as well, Minji. We have a whole bunch of folks joining us on Zoom, and we'll be able to kind of take more questions from our immediate Zoom audience, because on Facebook, we do know there is quite a bit of a delay. But if you're watching us from the ESL Diversified Facebook group, rest assured, I will be tracking those comments and I will be answering all of them after this Zoom recording is over. And then I will also have this recording available after the live meeting as well. Okay, great. So first of all, welcome everyone to our free training, How to Be a Successful Independent Educator. This webinar will be a conversation between yours truly, Paige, and Minji. Minji is from Improve Your Bookings, and some of you guys know her from her prolific LinkedIn posts and her coaching sessions, which is awesome. That's how we met. Okay, so we'll start by just asking you to consider the question that we asked in our emails and posts on social media. Consider, what is the first thing you should do when you move from platform teaching to independent teaching? So we'll consider that question first. Then we'll go over strategy with Minji, pedagogy with yours truly, and then we will go into Q&A.
You do your own hair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So I am an independent teacher now. I worked in public schools for about 5 years. I worked on platforms for 4 years. I started doing my independent teaching business last year with my private students. And in the beginning, it was small scale and I didn't experience too much success. And I've come back from maternity leave, and Minji really helped me coming back from maternity leave. And that's how I got started on scaling my independent teaching business. And I know that she has a lot to share. So Minji, do you want to go ahead and share your background for the group?
Great. So for those who know my background, I apologize for repeating it, but for those who are meeting the first time, my name is Minji. I live in London. This is my London flat. I was working for a business strategy company in Hong Kong before I came to the UK for my MBA degree with Cambridge University. Afterwards, I joined online learning design. So this is me combining my experience with business strategy to help online teachers like you who want to go independent. So this business actually is my third startup project. The first two project, one dramatically failed. Second one, moderately successful, semi-success, semi-fail, but this one really took off. So I hope my experience will be valuable and relevant to most of people here today.
Yes, I know that it's been incredibly helpful to work with you to help find my own strategic position. So I'm sure that people will find a lot of value in what you have to share. So let's go ahead and move into our content for today. So it's going to be more conversational style, a conversation between Minji and myself versus showing you slides and talking through. And then after our conversation piece is finished, we'll open up the floor for the Q&A at the end. So let's discuss our question. What is the first thing you do when moving from platform teaching to independent teaching, or when you're starting a business? Do you make a website first, Minji?
For my first startup, I built my website. I very enthusiastically shared with my friends the product I have and the price list. Nobody bought my product. It was a fantastic fail. I was chasing people all the time. Do you want to take lessons from me? Do you want to be educated by me? obviously nobody wants it. So I switched to my second business idea. I was curating learning experience, but launching with a platform, Airbnb experience platform. It was a semi-success. I learned really a lot by listening to my consumers. Every customer I have, I ask them about their background. I ask them to give me feedback. And I have a 500-page document to document everybody, which eventually lead to my current business, Improve Your Bookings, to help teachers to teach and reach online students better. So I would say the first thing is really thinking about strategy.
Yes, absolutely. So strategy is something that sometimes people try to figure out as they go. What do you mean by strategy?
Strategy is a commonly mentioned vocabulary. So I heard a lot people saying, this is my SEO strategy. This is my social media strategy. I would argue that these are tactics. Strategy is the process to choose where do you play. For example, all the teachers here, most of us will say, oh, I'm in the business, I'm an online ESL teacher. But there's a difference, if you think about it, between I am an ESL teacher versus I specialize in teaching writing for English language test. My target students are professionals in their 30s who want to apply for a global business school, but they don't have an English speaking environment and they don't have access to native English speakers with business and the writing experience. So the process from being a journalist to landing into a location where you have the best expertise to serve that segment, that process is called strategy. And eventually, you want to land into a location where you have the best expertise or network or practical skills or a combination of all these sectors. So when you figure out that strategy, it's very specific, it's very targeted. That makes your student, it really easy for your student to find you. And it makes it really easy for you to find the right student and eventually upsell them with more products.
That all sounds awesome, but I know that as platform teachers, especially, we're not trained to be specialists. We're trained to be able to serve every single student that can come into our classroom, and we have just minutes, sometimes seconds, to adjust to all of them. So I know that was the biggest adjustment for me. So when we're trying to narrow our focus, how do you suggest we form our strategy, Minji?
So I have interacted with more than 100 ESL educators since last year. When I ask my clients, who do you target? Who's your target student? Quite a lot of teachers will come back telling me, I'm able to serve everybody. I'm able to teach everything. That always get me very, very nervous because, for example, Paige, when you were teaching with Go-Go Kids, my metaphor is you're receiving a lot of coconuts. So the platform finds these coconuts for you. They're just falling into your plate. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to worry about finding clients. The only job we had to do was to teach. When we move from that scenario to teach independently, coconuts doesn't falling from the sky. You need to find your own coconut. And that's difficult because you will face a constant pressure to recruit students. Usually, let's say if you teach a student for 3 to 5 years, we anticipate 20% of students will leave you every year. So you're under the constant pressure to recruit 20% more students every year. And if we don't have the right strategy to do it, that's going to cause a lot of pressure for your very busy teaching job. So the importance of finding your specific niche, know exactly why you're targeting, who you're targeting, and know exactly why you are their best choice. They don't have other second best choice, will make life so much easier for you as an independent teacher, because instead of finding everywhere, where do I get coconut trees? Where do I get these coconuts? You are growing them, and you know every year they're consistently coming to you. And the beauty of having a strategy, have a very precise niche segmentation, is the more you grow them, the more experience you have. So your soil is getting better. You are able to yield more fruits as well. Therefore, I'm definitely on the same page as you, Paige. Specialize. Don't be a generalist.
I think
Really,
came to you. I think one of the things I said in the strategic position meeting that we had before was there are so many coconuts. I felt like a cartoon character being inundated. When the Go-Go Kid platform suddenly closed, I was getting to people outside of my niche that I couldn't serve, right? So you can imagine that it's just if you can't serve your clients well, it's a nightmare for the teacher. You have way too much stress.
Yes, so I have this metaphor for my clients. At the moment, yes, serve everyone. It's like dating. You date everyone, but the purpose is not to dance from one student to another. The purpose of serving every student for you at the moment is to choose the one to marry. So you date everyone, teach as many students as possible. That process informs you to form the strategy to serve one type of student, because you know you are their best choice and they are the right clients for you. So date everyone, but marry the one. So strategy is the process of finding out who do you marry.
Exactly. So I remember when we talked about moving off the platform, there can kind of be some different stories, the 3 stories, right? So which story, we can ask these questions to you guys, our audience, and you can decide which one you think will attract the most students, the 1, 2, and 3. So there's, yeah.
So we, that leads to the second strategy to find your student. Actually, when we sell to our students, most people, our natural instinct is to start from I'm qualified. I have so many great reviews. I am so experienced. Instead of thinking from the client, the student perspective. So we have a scenario for you. 1, 2, 3. You can vote with your hands, body language. If you are going to leave the platform you're teaching and approaching a new student as an independent teacher, there are 3 types of messages you can communicate with your student. Message number 1, I'm a very popular Go-Go Kid / VIP Kid / startup ABC teacher with many reviews on the platform. Come to my class. Choice number 1. Choice number 2, I can give you free trial, but it's limited. It's timed. So grab the opportunity, take my free trial classes now, come to my class. That's option number 2. Option number 3, would you like your children to read like a native English speaker? In that case, come to my class. So whoever wants to vote number 1, raise your hand. Okay, I see. So do we agree? The third message is the best. Why is that? The reason is because we are thinking as our client. We are seeing things from their perspective. they come to you not because you are good. They come to you because you are able to fill their needs. So we put their needs first, and that really changed the whole story.
Absolutely. It's not about just advertising you as the teacher. It's really talking about what you can do for the student. And that kind of leans into how you serve your client, which is your superpower, your pedagogy. So I guess that leads to that next question, right?
Yeah. Paige, you have on your Zoom ID, Paige, pedagogy. What is pedagogy?
So pedagogy is a large term that just means you're teaching methods and practices. A lot of teachers shy away from their power because we're afraid of things like planning time. We're afraid of, I guess, owning it. I guess it like Superman's afraid of his own strength, right? So that's what you own. Pedagogy is your methods, your practices, your secret sauce. With that, when you own that, you cannot be replaced by AI. You cannot be replaced by a recording. Without you and your pedagogy, the platforms are vacant and empty. There is no school without teachers, right? So it can incorporate lesson planning. And I hear a lot of teachers say this, I don't want a lesson plan. But lesson planning for your own independent teaching practice is so much different than planning for a large group at a public school or planning for a group that's assigned to you, because you're attracting those students in your niche that you're really excited to teach. So it's basically all wrapped up into one, your philosophy, your niche, your lesson planning, engagement strategies, and your teaching superpowers.
So I love what you said about teaching superpower, because when I imagine when you moved from teaching with Google Kids to teaching independently, you were facing that challenge. Oh, where do I find curriculum? What do I teach? How do I plan my lesson? So can you let us share with everybody who is planning to teach independently? Why do we need to consider pedagogy?
You need to consider it first, because if you jump to immediately marketing, it's almost like a restaurant not knowing what they're going to sell on their menu. It's the heart of your teaching business. And if you figure out the pedagogy first, you will be more likely to sell your classes. It always actually surprised me on the teaching platforms how often the curriculum was an afterthought. An independent teacher really has that unique advantage because they get to control the curriculum. They are the ones that get to make that roadmap for their students. So it always surprised me on the platforms how the curriculum was an afterthought and they would always add things. So you need to consider your pedagogy first, because I want you to avoid making the mistake that I made. I want you to save time. When I first started teaching independently, I thought I needed to make a website, offer my prices, and then I thought I would just figure out the curriculum and lessons later. So I posted in as many WeChat groups as I could. Some of them I got blocked from. I even made a Weibo account. I was very, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get all these clients and then I'll figure out how to serve them later. And then last minute before the trial class, I would be up all night trying to design the trial class. And guess what? I actually did not convert any of those initial trials. None of them. I had a 0% conversion rate because I was just offering them a free trial and I did not have a plan in place for them to work with me.
When you say plan, that's really, really interesting. Do you mean a lesson plan or do you mean a learning plan?
I mean a learning plan. There's two main ways that teachers plan. There's long-term planning, the learning plan, and then there's the lesson plan for each meeting. So they complement each other, but the learning plan is the most important for the independent teacher because it's your unique advantage. The platforms don't offer that individualized plan for the student. What the platforms would do is they would take the student, place them into a level, and then they would hope that that system would serve that student well and that the teachers could adapt. And they didn't even fix the teacher most of the time. Some platforms would, some platforms would not. So a learning plan is where you take inventory of your student. When you meet someone who's interested in taking class with you, that's where you gather information for your plan. You gotta ask them questions. What kinds of classes have you taken before? Note everything down. What kind of learning experiences has your student had? What kind of school did they go to? And then the most important, why do you want to read like a native English speaker? What are your goals? Maybe they have long-term goals of going to study abroad. Maybe they have short-term goals of entering a speaking competition. You never know, but you want your plan that you then make to reflect those things.
That's fantastic. So when we were teaching with platforms, the platform come up with a standard cookie cutter menu. So it doesn't matter who's coming, what's their own personal goals are. Platform just throw the same recipe to them again and again. Teachers were merely implementing them. What you are saying is a complete turnaround situation where, as an independent teacher, you become student-centered. Mm-hmm. We ask, like, the strategy session is all about nailing down which kind of segment, which kind of student you are best suited at teaching. The next thing to do is actually asking about their long-term goals, aspirations, medium-term goals, and you come up with a learning journey map leading them to their long-term goal. And that just becomes so much more interesting as a teacher and as a student.
Exactly. I shied away from that at first because in my public school teaching background, I would make plans for students and then have no hope of implementing them. It actually was very depressing. I would make all these beautiful plans, and then because I did not get to control the teaching environment, I had no hope of implementing them. So I think that was why I initially shied away from my teaching superpower, because I was told that, no, your hands are tied, you can't implement your learning plan. But as an independent teacher, those are off. Your hands are free. They're not tied behind your back still. It's going to take you a while to remember and realize if you were told no, no, no so many times. And that was the challenge for me. That was the first hurdle with the learning plans, was coming back into my power. And then once I kind of unleashed that, I was like, okay, I won't worry. If someone sees the learning plan I put and it's not suitable, that's good that we figure that out in the beginning. And then most of the time, I would say 90% or higher, I would present the learning plan and they would be even more excited for the trial class. Trial class, then I demonstrate that I'm the person that can help them on that path. And then it's like a two-way interview. And then by the time they finish the trial, they want it very badly because you demonstrated that you have the plan and you could implement the plan. And very often people buy plans and teachers separate. It's not very often you get those two things together.
Yes, so that just showed how important it is to involve our clients, listening to them and make them taking part of the ownership of their whole own learning journey and development plan. I can totally relate to that because, as I mentioned, my first startup was an absolute failure because I started everything from me. I want to teach these skills without even thinking, is it what my clients want and why they need to learn these skills? My second startup was better because I was launching it with Airbnb as a platform. The platform gave me all these coconuts. I designed an learning experience for them. During that process, I constantly check in with them. Oh, is it what you expect? What's your biggest takeaway? Do you suggest the area for me to improve? So over time, my product just became better and better and better. But still, that was a coconut throwing upon me. The third startup, Improve Your Booking. I will share one story, how this startup started. I was doing my Airbnb learning experience until I got my 500, the number 500 client. She is an ESL teacher living in the UK. So I just chat with her, I said, oh, why do you want to learn about this culture? Why do you want to take part in the culture workshop? And she said, oh, because I teach Chinese children. That's why I'm very enthusiastic in learning Chinese culture. That was the moment of truth, because I realized for that client, I'm offering an essential value, which she was not able to get from anybody else. So that was my strategy moment. And I knew, okay, if I focus, I would have other 499 clients. They came for different reasons. Most of them want to have a great time with family friends. It was not their essential needs. But with the particular ESL teacher segment, online teachers would like to know how to teach cross-cultural students better. What I offer was unique, and it's their essential needs. So that was where I pinpoint. This is where my niche is. This is where I'm going to play in terms of strategy. And Paige, you are taking it one step forward. After narrowing down your client base, really work with each of them to come up with a learning plan. And because you help them from the very beginning, when it comes to the whole teaching and learning process, they have nobody else but continuing with you. And that's a long-term relationship you're building. Beautiful.
I'll point out, I have a visual, though I have a long-term student, platform and independent student, gave me that persimmon. So that's a visualization. Some of these things in my background are actually treasures. I print out sometimes things my online students work on, put them in my little box to remind myself that on hard days when I'm working in my garden, cultivating my students, I'm helping them grow. And that's the most rewarding thing for me, is I love that long-term relationship. And as an independent teacher, the maintenance of a crop of students is easier if you have a long-term relationship, really. And the plant wants to stay in the environment that's working for them. And sometimes I have students who need to move on for various reasons. I have a student who has eye vision difficulties right now and just can't handle screen time. That's okay. I have new space for more students to cultivate. And because I have my beautiful blooming flowers, other people see that, and then they want to also be a part of it. And you get to a point as an independent teacher where you will be fully booked up to your capacity. You just have to trust the process. It's hard and messy in the beginning for everyone. It wasn't like all of a sudden I decided to be an independent teacher and then I had my students. It was a process to onboard the students. It was a process to make sure that they were a match. And we're human. We're not robots. So it's an imperfect but perfectly beautiful process.
Yes. I love the concept that it's process driven. We should trust the process. And you also mentioned it might get a little bit messy. So may I ask, when you actually start a process with your student, was everything smooth sailing? What happened?
No, actually, I would say that the way I got my first couple of clients was I was an essential need, even though I didn't have a plan. My first ever client was actually a student I'd never taught before in a platform. I got them through a VIP Kid teachers group. They wanted exam preparation. COVID had closed the exam preparation centers, so they needed someone to work with a textbook that they already had. So I said, okay, perfect. They figured out the curriculum. I just got to figure out everything else. It was so messy. We had to try 5 different video platforms. We had to try different payment systems. So the back end was very messy for my first client. I offered them quite a deal because we were learning with each other. I would say the first client is the messiest. And then the other ones, I had the basics figured out, how to meet, how to accept payment, but I didn't fully embrace the pedagogy. I didn't embrace my teaching superpowers, the learning plan. So I just knew that, okay, your students who I've worked with before, I kind of know what we need to do. Let's just take it 1 week at a time. And it was more casual. I did like conversation-based classes, and I didn't really have a roadmap. And then when I realized I was free to create the plan, and implement it, that's when I really started doing learning plans. It wasn't like I all of a sudden had a template. I gave them the form to fill out. No, it was conversations about what are your goals. And then I would match, here's how I can help you. And I would increase the value of the classes that I offer, the curriculum that I use, and the tools over time once I refined my process. Does that make sense?
That's super interesting. What you were saying, so I'm visualizing the whole process. When you had your first batch of students, you went in to meet their essential needs. Because of pandemic, because they had the essential needs to pass an exam, to prepare for that. So they actually were able to be very, very flexible with you. So you tried different platforms. They couldn't give up on you. They couldn't give up on what you're offering because they had to do it. But through that process, you gain so much insights. You realize, oh, I had this pedagogy superpower. I have a lot more liberty and freedom to curate a long-term plan by listening to my students. That improved essentially what you're offering and made you better suited in what you do. That is strategy.
Yes, yes. And I have now gotten my strategy and tools down to a point where I can take on a client, have that process be more smooth. And so the class prices I offer for new clients are at a different rate than my startup clients, I would say. If you helped me clean up the mess, you kind of get a discount. I would say you get it on the ground floor. Got it on the ground floor. New clients, it's a lot smoother. I know how to inventory their needs. I match them. I create the long-term plan, and then they decide. Because I only have a few openings here and there, I'm not trying to have everyone be my student, but I have students kind of waiting in the wings. I've had a couple who are like, let me know when you have a space available. Let me know when your baby is sleeping more, and I would love to join your class. So once you have figured out what you're teaching and you have your initial clients blooming and showing beautiful results, that's really when you'll be attracting more, and you can spend your time teaching and focusing on your students and doing what you love, and you won't have to spend your time chasing. So in my experience, I actually don't have to do really any marketing because I'm full. There's no need for me to market my one-on-one classes right now because there would be no point. All I'd be doing is be building a wait list. I can't serve everybody when you're one-to-one. Yeah.
Yes, it's a good position to be in, that you're so fully booked. You don't need to do marketing. That goes to the next question for you and maybe for everybody. Do you serve everyone? Do you say no to students, and why?
Do I say no?
Do you say no ever to students?
Yes.
And why?
Yes, I would say I definitely have, especially with the platform closures, because I used to do a lot of brand promotion with GoGo Kid. I did live open classes. I did some brand work. So there's almost this parasocial relationship where some students and parents have seen my face or been in a live one-to-many class. So they think maybe there is a relationship. And then I've received some emails to the effect of, hi, I'm so-and-so. I want to take your class. 8 p.m. Tuesday, we'll pay $5. No, I have said no. Sorry, I'm fully booked. I'm not able to serve you at this time. And I don't pursue those kinds of leads at all. If I have someone who's telling me, you will do this, this, and this, that is someone who is not a suitable client for me, because that's someone that really probably needs to work through a platform. Independent teaching is not suitable for everyone. You need the student to want to work with the independent teacher, and the independent teacher needs to also invite the student into the classroom. You can't serve everybody, but as a teacher, for your own long-term benefit, not burning out, that's an incredibly powerful thing, to be able to be the one that decides who is in your classroom. Because at no other point do you actually get to decide that. In a school, your administrator tells you that. On a platform, you have someone book, and then you serve them. Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. Actually, when one more story to tell. When I was working with a business strategy company, it's an American company. I was working for their Hong Kong office. Sometimes at the beginning, when I joined the company, I got a lot of phone calls from different type of clients. Some of them offered to pay millions of dollars to get my firm's strategy service. Most of the time, when I relay these messages to the partners, they would say no. And I was very surprised. I was very curious, and I waited until I know the partners well enough to ask, oh, why do you say no to these cold calls? So it turned out, as a strategy firm, we decide our own client base. We have our own client target list. For those who call us randomly, they need to prove they can bring the company one of these two things. Number one, serving them will bring new knowledge for our company. So it's giving the company institutional knowledge. And it's a strategic direction. For example, we wanted to get into creative industry. So when a creative industry client comes, even that client offer a lower market rate, we will serve it, not because we want to earn the money, but because serving that client help us to get into the industry we want to get into. Number two is, unless they provide billions of dollars, even they don't bring us new knowledge, but if they can pay billions of dollars, we will say yes as well. But the important thing is, what I learned from working at that strategy firm is you choose who you work for. You don't let the client to choose you. So I can absolutely relate to your story, why you said no.
And I think that that's key for long-term sustainability for any kind of business. Your partners were really wise, because you go into your own business to serve yourself and have it be run by you. You don't go into business to be directed by others. Otherwise, there's no point. You might as well work somewhere else. So I totally agree. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. As a teacher, I think we very rarely get to experience that kind of freedom. So we might look for the initial people we work with to give us some direction, but long term, you really want to be the one deciding and being in control.
And building your niche segment is precisely the point, because it helps us to build that vertical knowledge. It's so vertical, it's so niche that anybody else, they can't come in. As the longer you serve in that particular segment, the more contacts you build, the better your reputation becomes. So usually after a year, when you have chosen very wisely the right market segment for you, in a year, you will be in a position almost as a monopoly power.
I agree. There's so much with determining your niche, and there's so many teachers who have so many incredible talents that I want to encourage everyone to not just think about yourself as a teacher, but think about yourself as really an expert, because a lot of us come into teaching, especially ESL, kind of as a second career change. Take inventory of all those wonderful experiences that you bring. Even if you don't necessarily think they're relevant, they can really inform your teaching practice and make you unique and help determine your niche.
Yeah, so that brings us to my answer to our question. When you first move from teaching with a platform to teaching independently, if I were an ESL tutor, the first thing I would check is I would find my own resume, and I would look from the beginning to the end, what I have done, what's my qualification, what am I passionate about. I would do an inner reflection before I go about to explore my niche market, my strategy, and tap into clients. The first thing I would do, everybody, we have different ways to do it, but first thing I would do is to understand myself and have somebody to bounce ideas with you as well. somebody you trust to tell them what I have done, what's my previous experience, what am I really, really passionate about. Ask that person to help you exploring what you're best suited at.
Absolutely. That processing is so important. And you can process to some extent by yourself, but I know that when GoGo Kid closed and everything was kind of falling to pieces when I was coming off of my maternity leave, I was, in the middle of the night with my daughter, my phone blowing up. A week later, I came to your strategy session and you helped kind of write me and like figure out, okay, you can't serve all these students, Paige. You can't build a school. My original idea was I was going to try to build an online school. Yeah, the scope was too big. My website got blocked by WeChat Pay actually very quickly for many reasons. It just didn't work. And you helped me tap into my professional development experience training teachers. And what I loved at my work at GoGo Kid, you helped me see that I hadn't fully left that behind. I can still serve teachers in a different way and I can still help others. I just don't, I'm not in the middle. Like, I don't want to broker transactions. No, I want to help other teachers uncover their superpower because I had lost my superpower for years, actually. I want to say I lost it for like 3 years and now I finally got it back. So I want to help others find it too.
Yeah, it's all about using our past experience and best leverage it to explore a new direction, to pivot. And the beautiful thing is the more we serve our niche market, the more you are in the teacher development pedagogy area, the more you can anticipate what your future clients want before they even come to you. You more or less, you grown a sense what they are looking for. When you get to that point, you know your client better than they know themselves. You're in a very good position.
Thank you. I hope that I can.
We are in a very good position.
I want to help others serve the students because ultimately, in my mind, the more teachers we help, the more students' lives we impact, and the more people the more gardens we help people cultivate. Yeah.
Great.
So that leads us to you, our lovely audience who have joined us in this conversation in the chat box, or if you're watching it back, some folks might be watching the recording. I want to call your attention as a reminder. I posted on Facebook a survey, so I will post it in the chat box on Zoom as well. If you want to participate in the Q&A, I believe we have time to kind of pivot into that. Are we ready for Q&A, Minji?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
We love to hear your voices.
Yes.
Come on,
if you're
unmute
watching
yourself.
On Facebook, know that there is a delay that I'm very aware of, that I will not be able to see your comments in a timely enough manner on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, I will get back to those after the broadcast has ended, and I will be available in the ESL Diversified Facebook group. We also have our emails. Mine is petalpedagogy@gmail.com. Minji's is admin@improveyourbookings.com. So you can also get in contact with us through our emails as well. Yeah.
So this is audience floor now. Whenever you have a question, raise your hand, unmute yourself. Okay, what's next? That's the next step. Yan, I'm gonna ask you unmute yourself. And then it's John.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, my name is Ian. I am from Australia. I've been teaching English for about 10 years in Asia, and I would like to move to be an independent teacher, formally, seriously, a good plan, a strategy. I usually teach adult students.
You usually teach adult students. So, Ian, good to see you again. I remember you came to the parents workshop.
Yes.
What if I were you? What I would do is you would already have your resume with you, so you know what your experience are in terms of teaching, education, practice, other work experience as well, because they're very relevant. So after that, I would take a look at my students, the clients you have. I would try to figure out a few things. why come to you, in which context, in which circumstances they came to you, and what really motivate them. That goes back to what Paige was saying, their long-term goal. So I will do a few user profiles, profiling a few students, trying to really understand which one you are best suited to serve. And it sounds very easy, but it's not. We have bias about ourselves. When we are in the situation, it's very hard to see things from a fresh perspective, but really schedule interviews with them. If you can't figure things out by yourself, asking them, I'd like to serve you better. Is it okay to schedule a talk with you so that I can teach you better? Try to understand why they came to you, in which circumstances, what's the real motivation, and also what are their choices if they don't come to you.
Okay.
That's a competition.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is it Jamie?
I'll answer Amy's in the chat. So Jamie wants to unmute and I'll answer Amy's in the chat pod.
Okay, that's Jamie. And then John. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I am a current VIP Kid teacher. This is my first time teaching ESL was with VIP Kid, but I've been with them for about 5 years. Previous to that, I was in the hospitality industry for years. And I also did volunteer teaching in Colombia and Ecuador years ago, which is when my passion for teaching in other cultures really kind of came forward. I do live in Europe. I'm from California. I've been living in Europe for 4 years. So I really like the idea of being able to work on the road, being able to live wherever I am. I had not considered independent teaching at all until just recently. When VIP Kid first, well, when we all got the news that the platforms were eventually going to close down, I created a private teaching email to give to all of the parents of my regular students. I've built a lot of relationships with families and students. I still have some of my very, very first students from 5 years ago that have been with me the whole time. And it started coming in that parents were just insisting that I must continue teaching their children after this all finishes. And, you know, it was something that I said I hadn't considered. Really, Paige, like you were saying, I'm one of those. Like creating my own curriculum is really terrifying to me because I did it in classes when I was teaching in person in Ecuador and in Colombia. I taught in Spanish and in English. But it seemed so simple. There were small class sizes and it was nothing, it was a volunteer, right? So I wasn't getting paid for this. There was no pressure. I have been talking with a lot of friends that I have here in Europe who have been independent teachers for years. And they're kind of showing me simple, take exercises from workbooks, put them up into your Zoom or your ClassIn or whatever platform you're using. And I'm kind of stuck on this idea after working for VIP Kid for years that I really want to find, I want to be able to offer more professional looking curriculum, something that has graphics and something that really comes together nicely. So I'm struggling with that, and I'm not very talented with computers. I can work my way around and figure them out for what I need to do, but that's about it. I guess so now that I'm considering independent teaching only for my regular students who are insisting, I do not want to build a large, at least in the beginning, I do not want a lot of clients. I still want to look for something, another platform outside of China to give me stability, something that I know I can get paid through. And in the meantime, kind of grow my, work with a couple of students. I have 5 students right now who want to take classes, which I think is a good start. I guess my question to you is, so for example, one student's mom just told me, I want to use the unlock system for through the Cambridge, Oxford, and I had to Google this and look this up. I couldn't even find pricing. It says to go through somebody. And when I did find something, it's very expensive. So I had to email her and say, I'm not going to be purchasing expensive content. I don't really know even how to go about using a book or a workbook to create classes. Do you just literally take, do you just take exercises from workbooks and incorporate them into your class? I'm kind of thinking of using like Canva to create my own sort of class, but I think that's time consuming. So I guess my question is, where do you start actually making curriculum? Like, how do you make your own graphics? Do you use worksheets from workbooks? What do you do?
So I hear you on wanting to offer professional curriculum. And I'll get to the chat box question to clarify. My account wasn't banned off of WeChat. My payment system through my website was blocked. I'll get to that after. But I hear you on wanting to offer professional materials, but not being able to purchase all the textbook systems. I did share in the chat the teacher toolkit. That's free, and that has all free resources, video platforms, payment systems. It's a curated list of things that I spent hours going through Facebook groups to find. So I don't own that information, but that's a curated list. For curriculum, once you get a few paying clients, that's when you want to upgrade curriculum. So in my mind, there's a few stages. You figure out your basics, use free materials with your initial clients, offer them a cheaper price because you're figuring things out. Then you want to upgrade your curriculum, when you figured out your systems, and then you can also justify the price increase. You can't offer the professional level materials at the same time as you're onboarding your first couple of clients. When you're ready to upgrade, I only recommend one paid service right now, and that's Reading A to Z, Learning A to Z. The only reason why I recommend that one is because I've used it for years in brick and mortar, and now as a private online teacher, you can have an individual teacher account and you have access to all the levels, AA, all the way to Z. There's also student tools. If you upgrade your account, you can have a flipped classroom, kind of where you send them a book. They can listen to it ahead of time. They can, enjoy that on the student app. The app does work in the mainland China. I'm in contact with an international curriculum representative. So I have a whole recorded meeting just about Reading A to Z. So what I will do is I put RAS info in there, and I also will put the meeting link. Here's the meeting link. And I know I've shared this with Minji. That's the full length meeting. You can watch that on your own time. I do earn a commission off of the Reading A to Z recommendations, but I only recommend that one paid product right now because I've used it for years. If you're looking for professional grade, but I caution all teachers, don't buy in the beginning. Don't pay for class in, don't pay for textbooks. I did all those things. I paid for class in, I paid for textbooks. Just figure out your systems, use free materials. And then when you're ready, I would use free video conferencing and then upgrade to a more professional curriculum. Because if you're serving the Chinese market, you have to be ready to move. Ideally, you want to be ready to pivot to other markets as well. With the current situation, we don't want to just serve the Chinese market because we can only teach so much at certain times. We want to have a global classroom where we can also serve different time zones. So I hope that answers your question, Jamie. Do you have any? Oh, I can't hear you. Go ahead. And I think maybe your button.
Sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Now you can hear me. And also along those lines, so I've seen Reading A to Z in ESL. I've asked some of these questions in the teachers' platforms, and I guess so. I'm also thinking a lot about doing reading comprehension classwork with some of my more advanced students and sharing books with them in the classroom and then discussing them. But where does intellectual property rights come in? I've looked this up, and it says there's fair use for education purposes, but it also states something about only using portions of texts or readings, and can I use like magazine articles or news articles, things like this?
So I know for textbooks, it comes down to the individual publishers, right? I know that with Reading A to Z in particular, when you are a paid subscriber, you can use that with up to 36 students, that 1:36 ratio. That's your license. For other textbooks, it depends. If someone shares a file with you and I don't know how you got that file, just use your best judgment. For magazines and things like that, I would say that falls under educational use. I'm not a copyright expert, but there's definitely, it depends on the source of the material. You definitely could piece together curriculum for sure that way from open source things. And that's what I recommend, open source things in the beginning.
So it's okay to just pull from things and kind of put them in and okay. I didn't want anything. Okay, thank you for your help.
Of course.
So John, do you want to unmute yourself? Here we go.
Hi there, everybody. Hello, Minji. I just have a question. I am John from Bangkok, originally from South Africa. I teach here online for a school in Thailand, but I'm based in Bangkok. I need some advice. Minji, I've spoken to you before, so I'm going to address it to you. I found a 7-year-old boy in Hong Kong to teach tomorrow night for the first time.
Yes.
I had a quick video WeChat call with the mother and with Thomas, the little boy of 7 years old. I just need, she said she wants to improve his conversation English. What do I teach that boy tomorrow night? I don't know. He's 7 years old, grade 2, and I know that they are very visual, okay? So I have a book that my son in Shanghai sent to me, and it's called Brainwave. Have you heard of Brainwave storybooks? Yes? Have you?
Mm-hmm.
No?
I haven't heard of that one in particular.
Okay. I just need some advice to get off the ground, okay? This is my first private student, and I want to do it right. And I'm going to feel it tomorrow. I'm thinking about a story. I don't know which lesson. What do you suggest? He had a t-shirt on with sharks on, and I can go animals. I can go adventure animals and just go through the motions and to find out and see how good he reacts and how well he repeats the words I want him to. You understand? I have an idea of how I'm going to address this and take Thomas for 1 hour through a story. Okay. What do you
would you mind if I fielded this one, Minji, since is it a pedagogy question or a strategy question?
So Paige, why don't you address it from pedagogy point of view, and I will add one from business point of view.
Yeah. So that's such an exciting place to be. I've been there before your trial class and you're so nervous. I would advise you to back up and to make a plan. You had some good information to share. The mother shared she wants to improve his conversational speaking. That's your goal.
Okay.
That's the goal for the learning plan.
Okay, that's the goal.
We as teachers kind of get lost in what's the lesson, step back and then, okay, this is our learning plan. In this partnership, because you want them to convert to a client, we're going to work together over a series of classes to improve your conversational English. And I would just write some objectives. We can learn about asking questions, answering questions. You have to make those. And then once you have that plan, you can then better go into the materials. A lot of teachers, we jump to the textbooks like Brainwave. It's probably a good resource, but when you have that plan, you can better filter and choose the material for your lesson. So maybe what I would do is I would pick a few levels with your trial class student. What I always do is I will tell them before the trial class, I do 25 minutes. You say you have an hour. It depends on how you want to structure.
Well, the mother is going to pay me. She's going to pay me.
Oh, she's already decided.
She's going to pay me.
Oh,
because
wow.
My son and I decided, Dad, don't go in high. Start with 150 yuan per hour. Okay, Minji, you will know 150 yuan per hour. Okay.
Yes, and
I'm telling you this because this is my first time and I don't want to mess it up.
I see.
Congratulations.
They've already decided. So they're
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We're starting tomorrow night. And she's
Okay.
going to pay me in Alipay, in my Alipay account, and we tested the Alipay account.
Wow.
Congratulations, John.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. One more thing to add
Yes.
is the first interaction would be a great way to understand your student. Yes. If I were you, I'm not a pedagogy expert, but from business point of view, ask about them. What's Hong Kong like? What's your favorite animal? Because kids will be so excited. And this is also your way to understand what they are interested in for you to select material for them in the future. Don't start from what you want to recommend. Start from what they are interested.
Yes.
Ask open questions.
Okay, so what will be the content of tomorrow for an hour with Thomas? So what do you suggest I talk to him about? Remember, it's conversation here, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to have a conversation with him. So do you suggest I ask all these questions about him? Yes?
Yes, I would do that. Definitely. I would spend the first half doing that. And then you could maybe pick something complementary, try a few levels of stories to see if it's a match. And then
so I've got to go through my content. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, so half an hour first, because I did have a quick chat with little Thomas. And he likes fast running. I said, he loves speed. What do you like to do at school? No, he loves PE, physical education. He said, no, he loves running. I said, fast or slow? No, fast. Okay, now I know he wants to run fast. And he goes to catch fish with his grandfather at the lake. So I also catch a fish. I also try. I'm also a fisherman. So we had a good relationship going there already in video number 1 when I introduced myself. Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to keep the others
that's great.
further.
That's an
I
exciting
just wanted to know, how do I step here? Thank you.
Great news.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I believe Amy has a question on social media. How to reach out to find students, parents, especially since they use different social media platforms. Paige, you want to take it up?
So I would say that it depends on the market you're trying to serve. So if you're trying to serve the Chinese market, be cautious of large groups. You're going to want to have more one-to-one conversations. And in fact, I would make sure that anyone that you're getting contact with off of any social media platform, move them to email. If you are at all aware of the outage yesterday, remember, Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp all went down yesterday, but you know what still worked? Emails. So I would get their emails as you go, for sure. Make sure that you keep organized. And with social media, you have to think about what you're attracting. Are you trying to attract your teacher friends to like your photos? Or are you trying to attract students? Students and parents will be attracted to examples of your teaching. In fact, I got more attention from students on social media when I recorded videos of myself teaching live last year. So that didn't necessarily get me a lot of likes, but I got some people approaching me for English lessons. Now, not everyone was in my teaching niche. It was mostly adults, and that's not usually who I serve, but that did attract the attention of people who would be interested in being my students. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Was it me, Amy? I think it was mine.
So.
Yeah, because it's a few of us Amy's. That's basically like for the strategy. I was a former Wales teacher and I taught science as part, they obviously give you everything. As we said, we're very broad, but I specialized as well with Wales with science. And I decided when all the platforms went down, I want to do science because that's what my degree is in and that's what I'm interested in. So I want to target elementary, middle school students doing G1 to G6 science just because that's my focus. It's how do I meet the students / parents to, for them to contact me to get possible trials and stuff, because I know what I want to do. I know what I want to teach. I just don't know how to meet them.
Do you have existing students you can experiment? Do you have existing students?
I only have one set of students currently. who were doing a science class with me, who they met me through I think it was just a random Facebook. We're looking for a science teacher. All my Wales students I lost because obviously they cut us off without telling us, because, you know, so we don't poach their clients. So yeah, I don't have any of my existing students. Yeah, so I kind of, yeah, just need advice of like, because I've tried to add, I still have my Ding Talk, but yeah, you know, they don't really use Facebook, they don't really use Instagram. Like, how do I like, yeah, get myself out there? I created a Facebook page, but you know, not many Chinese use Facebook.
I understand.
Yeah.
My instinct is to start with what you already have. It's interesting. The current student you have, you got connected through Facebook. That already gives you a hint. Continue with Facebook, because instead of trying to reach impossible students, start with what you have. And think about previously when you were teaching Welsh English, when you were teaching these students science, which kind of questions they ask you. Create social media content answering these questions. And then the next thing is to measure the response rate, how warmly they respond to each post you have, each content you post out. Through that process, you're developing a sense. It's not something we are born with. The sense will teach us which kind of content help you to reach new students most effectively. So we're all starting from zero. It's about growing our sense by small experiments. Starting with what you have.
Okay.
You have, yes.
Okay.
Teresa asked a question about WeChat specifically, and I think it's appropriate to touch on it just so my experience. What I post in my WeChat is I am very careful these days, just because I want to respect the spirit of all the reforms, because ultimately the changes are coming for really good reasons. It was not sustainable for students to be so stressed out and parents to spend so much money. So I do want to respect that, but I also want to share my life. So what I do is I share mostly pictures and videos from my life. If you have an example of you teaching, I would just make sure that you don't show any information about a student. You can do like a little demo, that's fine. But I would be very careful, and I would not recommend putting that you offer classes specifically to that really wide audience of your WeChat stories. I see you nodding, Minji. Do you agree? Yeah, because that's a large group. Like your WeChat stories is like everyone you're in contact with on WeChat. Yeah.
And Laurie has a question. Yeah, I'm asking you to unmute.
Yeah, I just had to get the the mic open. That's something I was asking too, because I'm sorry, I heard you wrong there, Paige. But I've got a long list of my students from China when I was working with ABC 360, and they're on QQ, most of them. But I've been hearing reports that if you try to do anything to get in touch, or the Chinese government knows you're trying to give private tutoring, they'll ban your account and you won't be able to get back on again, no matter what. So I'm in contact with a couple of my students who are keeping me up to date, but how can we contact our students in a way that's going to get us reconnected with them to teach, but at the same time, not get ourselves banned or not get them or their families in trouble with their government? I'm kind of worried.
I think that leads to naturally wanting to think outside the Chinese market. We want to obviously keep we as teachers love our students so much. The harsh reality is not everyone that we taught in the past is going to be able to continue with us. And that's a really challenging place as a teacher. Like at the end of the academic year, you say goodbye to your graded students, and it's hard. You will have to say goodbye to some. It is possible you may be able to quietly serve some for a time, and I do serve some quietly, but you just have to, if you're serving Chinese market, I would recommend just doing so as quietly as possible and be prepared for things to change, even if you're teaching independently. I would stay away from infrastructures like Classin and WeChat to host the class, and I would not call it a class. I would just call it a meeting and keep it very, very light and casual. You want to think about how to attract more students. You can use your students that you have already to figure out your teaching niche and figure out what you want to offer. And then I think that comes into networking and finding new pods of students who may be located elsewhere. There are students who are in Japan who want classes. There are students in Hong Kong. I know that that's where John has his trial class student tonight. He's excited to serve. What do you think about networking and expanding, Minji? Because I know you do a lot of events with your Explore Culture business as well.
Yeah, so two messages I want to communicate. One is relating back to, I agree with what Paige said. If it's temporary, then continue doing what we do. But if you want to build a long-term solid business, let's shift our way of thinking, focus on customers, and strategy is about how to leverage what we have before to pivot into something new, but completely legitimate. Laurie, I know you are in Montessori as well. I give you a suggestion, trying parent education, passing the knowledge about approach of Montessori pedagogy to parents. That's completely legitimate. Another thing is networking. So it's an idea we have for the moment. We would like to organize parent teacher networking events, but not necessarily just with Chinese parents and Chinese families. I have another global business on culture. So I'm trying to leverage that and getting parents from other countries like Japan, Spanish-speaking countries to network with teachers. We hope by building these connections, we will, it gives you, a teacher, an opportunity to understand demand and the market. It also gives you an opportunity to potentially take it forward, so that we stay tuned on our further development. Yes.
Yeah. And I know that I watched a lot of your interviews over the course of these policy changes, and I think that no one could have anticipated how some platforms suddenly shut down, like Wales and GoGoKid. The switch is flipped, and for now, some companies are continuing. So I would say that we don't quite know how that story is going to unfold yet. So be ready to pivot, and don't think of it as a loss. Think of it as an opportunity to expand, because once you do determine your teaching niche, you won't be able to teach more than your capacity for a certain time zone anyway. You will naturally want to expand your business, because during the daytime here, I can't serve time zones that it's 2 a.m. at my 2 p.m., right? I will have to think about when my daughter can sleep regularly during the day. Who can I serve during the daytime, nighttime?
So I have two businesses, one in tourism and one in language learning. Last year, for my tourism business, we had a COVID pandemic. So everything shut down. Tens of thousands of my colleagues around the world, we lost our jobs, but we pivot to online. It was disastrous last year, completely disastrous. But that experience trained us to be very flexible, to actually see crises as opportunities. In a way, I'm just so grateful, because I had a dry run last year. So this year, when the education policy came out, it didn't feel that miserable. I didn't feel that pessimistic anymore, because I knew I could manage it last year. So I can manage with the language sector this year. It's more about not really focusing on your product, not starting from us, but really looking at our consumers, our clients. What do they need? can I create a solution best suited to their needs, but completely legitimate? Can I see markets in other geographic locations whose niche, whose clients have the similar needs, so I can expand to serve that geographic market as well? So I wouldn't worry too much about just copying what I have done before with a platform. I see this as a very exciting opportunity for everybody to reinvent ourselves using what we have before.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons why this broadcast is being shared into the ESL Diversified Facebook group, because it's really about not just figuring out how to continue, it's about finding the new path and kind of way forward. I know that, it's 11:15 now already, Minji. Oh my goodness, we've gone for far more than an hour. Wow. Yeah, so great.
Yes. Last question, Amy Mason said, you're trying to install WeChat. Amy, if you shoot me an email, I will see what I can do to verify you if it's possible, but I have a UK number. I don't know if you're based in the US, I might not be able to help you.
A recommendation for staying in touch is really to do email. I have found that the verification, it's a stumbling block for some, and possibly if you have email with the person that you're trying to connect to, maybe the person that is trying to connect with you on the WeChat can also help verify you.
Yes.
It has to be, the problem is I can't go around verifying people. I have a limit, and I know Minji does as well. So that keeps the platform more secure for the users. Mm-hmm. And then Red Packet you cannot enable unless you have a Chinese bank account. That I know for sure.
So Amy Mason and Amy Dunston, if you have a UK number, I can help you verify. I put my email address here. But if you have a non-UK member, it's beyond what I'm able to help. But yeah, so yeah, email is the best. Great.
And that's another reason why I did the Independent Teacher Toolkit. I'll scroll up and I'll copy paste. I really recommend email for communication with those that you already know. And the chat apps are really not a way to share out with folks that you don't know yet. You're only going to be able to contact those that are already connected to you. So if you have more questions about specific tools, like video platforms and such, I would invite you to check out this curated list of video applications, payment systems, and I'm going to be adding more to the toolkit as well. You can also email me at petalpedagogy@gmail.com. And I want to make sure that I can get into the Facebook group ESL Diversified, and I'll share the link to that Facebook group. So you guys can join me in there if you'd like to have a conversation in the Facebook groups. This is ESL Diversified. There we go. Okay, I think that we're ready to kind of close out our meeting and it's lunch my time, and we'll be in touch more. Minji and I are working on the full length version of this in the form of a course. So we hope that will be available in about a month. So we can provide even more support for teachers who are trying to find their strategic position and open their teaching businesses.
Because this is eventually a process, and it's gonna take. Entrepreneurship is always taking us longer than we expected. The idea behind developing a digital course on strategy, pedagogy, and social media marketing is we try to break down the process in a very systematic way. So you have a checklist from A to Z, and that kind of give you a guideline what to expect during each step and what will happen if you run into a major roadblock. So we hope you, if you sign up, if you fill the feedback form, and we will let you know if in a month our digital course will be fresh from the oven. But thank you so much for for coming. It's lovely to see everybody.
Thank you so much.
New faces and old faces. Thank you so much.
Oh, we have a guy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Please fill out the form so we can get our feedback. We would love to know how we can further improve the content and more soon. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. And we'll pause the recording.